First 100-pound general-purpose bombs were dropped in a diagonal pattern across target 2, resulting in a series of heavy explosions. Out of a train of 6 bombs, armed with instantaneous fuses, 4 hit directly on the target buildings. Out of 118 structural units, 44 were totally destroyed. Hits by incendiaries on the wreckage caused by the high explosives, however, proved disappointing. Fires in those wrecked areas were slow to take hold and spread, due to the fact that the explosions had leveled the area and eliminated drafts. These flames never developed with intensity equal to fires caused by incendiaries which had struck buildings undamaged by high explosives and which expanded into appliance fires within 3 minutes. A smoldering fire in the wreckage, however, was allowed to burn unchecked for 15 minutes and then was attacked and put out in a few seconds with a single hand pump. While all this was taking place, a confirming mission was being flown against the heavier construction of Target 1, rebuilt since the first all-incendiary mission. 2 trains of 6 instantaneous fused 100-pound high explosive bombs were dropped across the target area. Resulting in a total of 4 direct hits, which destroyed 13 building units in the center of the target. Then along came the incendiaries, straddling across the pattern of high explosive hits. It was the same story all over again. Just as in the case of Target 2, incendiary fires in the wreckage caused by the demolition bombs burned feebly, failing to spread, although no effort was made to control them, while incendiary hits on intact buildings at the fringe of the wrecked area developed rapidly into appliance fires. They spread from building to building, leaping 30-foot streets and eventually threatening the entire target area. The only thing that eventually stopped them was the presence of the bomb-blasted areas, which actually acted as fire breaks and permitted access to firefighting vehicles. Well, as a result of these 2 demonstrations, we had a pretty good idea of the uselessness of dropping demolition bombs before incendiaries on this type of target. So we tried it the other way around. A few days later, another B-17 took off with a load of high explosives and incendiaries on a test mission. For this time, the objective was Target 3, and the trains were dropped in the reverse order. First incendiaries. Then 10 minutes later, when the fires were blazing fiercely, a train of 6 100-pound general-purpose bombs with 1/10 of a second delayed fuses. 10 minutes after that, just to make sure, a second string of 6 100-pounders with the same fusing fell into the target area. 3 direct hits into the fires resulting from these attacks had the unforeseen effect not only of slowing the spread, but also actually blowing out some of the fires with the blast of their high explosive concussions. Obviously, the combination of high explosives and incendiaries, regardless of what order they were dropped in, wasn't going to be the answer. But in spite of the failure of both experiments, 2 consistent factors had been established. When incendiaries hit a structure already demolished by high explosive, resulting fires are unsatisfactory and easily controlled. But when they land on an intact structure, from which first-line firefighters have been held away for only 1 or 2 minutes, a dangerous appliance fire usually results. Well, that was our problem, to find a way to drive first-line firefighters out of the buildings without demolishing the buildings themselves. The answer, or part of it, was the M41 fragmentation bomb. Here's what happened to the wooden walls of a Target 3 hutment, beside which M41 frag bombs were statically detonated. However, that wasn't the whole answer. We still had to find the load ratio that would give us the greatest number of incendiary fires, and at the same time include a big enough proportion of frag to keep the maximum number of firefighters away. So we ran pattern tests and found that a ratio of 1 500-pound frag cluster to 4 500-pound incendiary clusters produced the proportion that we were looking for. An adequate number of frags for anti-personnel effect, plus maximum efficiency of coverage for these 2 types of bombs. Now, ballistic tests proved that an incendiary cluster dropped from 30,000 feet will land approximately 600 feet behind a frag cluster dropped from the same point. So a train release of frag and incendiaries at constant 200-foot spacing, with a frag cluster released first and followed by 4 incendiary clusters, allows the incendiary pattern to catch up to and overlap the frag pattern, resulting in coverage of an area 1,000 feet by 400 feet, with an even distribution of frag to incendiaries, and at the same time, a maximum potentiality of fires. Using this ratio, a single B-29, dropping 8 clusters of M41 frag bombs and 32 clusters of M69 gasoline gel incendiaries, can effectively cover a ground area 8,000 feet long and 400 feet wide. With the running of the last mission to determine the most effective load ratio of frag to incendiaries, Service Test 1-44-18 was complete. Here's the summary of the conclusions and recommendations of the Army Air Force's Proving Ground Command report. Service Test 1-44-18 conclusions. A. The M69 gasoline gel incendiary bomb, when ignited in a relatively inaccessible location or left unattended in the early stages of fire development, is capable of initiating destructive fires in congested wood structure areas. B. Demolition bombs are not effective when used against congested wooden structure areas for the following reasons. 1. Structures wrecked by demolition bombs are less susceptible to later incendiary action than intact structures. 2. Demolition bombs exploding in fires already in progress tend to reduce the intensity and spreading capacity of the fires. 3. Wreckage caused by demolition bombs tends to act as a fire break. C. For use on congested wooden structure areas, the M41 fragmentation bomb is superior to demolition bombs because it tends to eliminate or drive undercover first-line firefighting personnel while leaving target structures relatively intact during the critical stage of fire development. D. Bomb loads consisting of 20% 500-pound clusters of M41 frag bombs and 80% 500-pound clusters of M69 incendiaries released to obtain approximately simultaneous impact in a coextensive pattern are the most effective method of incendiary attack against the sprawling, congested wood and paper slum areas of Japanese cities.